The big one on Friday was the Breeders Cup Juvenile, carded as race number 9. Let's take a look at the field. A mile and a 16th on the main track. 13 of them signed on. All eyes were on game winner for Bob Baffert. Joel Rosario with the mount unbeaten, really untested at any of his starts. He's looked very, very impressive throughout his career. And the question was, how would he handle shipping out of town? How would he handle a few different things? He didn't have the easiest post position. Ultimately, none of it really mattered because he's just that much better than everyone else. Here's the stretch run of the Juvenile.
Has lost the lead, and Nick's Go is in front as they turn for home. Nick's Go on top, trying to pull off another upset here into the final furlong with Game Winner running at him on the outside. The two of them into the final furlong, and they've bumped there. Game Winner on the outside takes the lead. On the inside, it's Nick's Go, who fights on but will be second best as they come down to the line. He doesn't know how to lose. He's Game Winner in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Nick's Go was second. Signalman came on for third.
Even money. Game Winner gets the job done for Baffert and Rosario. The runner-up, Nick's Go, who ran another giant race. This is a horse that just keeps showing up with big performance after big performance. He almost upset another field at odds of 40-1. He was 70-1 at Keeneland, 40-1 this time around. He runs second, and Signalman from the back of the pack runs third at odds of 67-1. Let's take a look at the unbeaten Game Winner. 4-for-4 lifetime, just under $1.5 million in career earnings. Owned by Gary and Mary West, trained by Bob Baffert, bred by Summer Wind Equine in Kentucky, ridden to victory by Joel Rosario. You can see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He is by Candy Ride out of an AP Indy mare named Indian Giving. 93 buyer, 112 time form U.S. rating for Game Winner, winning this year's Juvenile. Nick's Go, a 90 buyer and a 112 time form U.S. rating. So again, there is the difference from a pace standpoint. Signalman earns an 88 buyer and a 106 time form U.S. rating. And Mr. Money, the fourth place finisher, he earns a 77 buyer and a 102 time form U.S. rating. I know there are rumors out there on Twitter. I'm not even going to actually verbalize what they are. You can go and find those. I haven't heard anything one way or the other. I'm going to look at this and say this horse is the leader in the clubhouse for the Kentucky Derby next year. He's proven at Churchill Downs. Distance isn't supposed to be a problem for him. He has better tactical speed than I think you were able to see on Friday last week, simply because he was hung very wide, and he was unable to really establish that early position without having to work too hard. The fractions 23-1, 46-4, 11-1 for 3 quarters. They stopped the clock in 43-3. He came home himself, Game Winner, in 32-17, as opposed to Nick's Go. Now keep in mind, Nick's Go was up there pushing the pace throughout. He came home in 32-82. I have no knocks about Game Winner. I think he makes all the sense in the world. He looks like a Derby contender, and I like the fact that in this race in the Juvenile, about just outside the 8th pole, those two horses come together, Game Winner and Nick's Go. They bounce, and it's a legitimate bounce off of one another. And Game Winner, totally unfazed by it. He digs in and keeps on going and ultimately opens up, wins by over 2 lengths. I think he's a really talented horse. I think he's proven at the surface that he's going to need to be his best at next year, the first Saturday in May. I think distance is going to be fine for him. He's in great hands with Bob Baffert and Joel Rosario. Nothing to knock about Game Winner. I think he makes plenty of sense. He is going to be, or at least he should be, unanimous 2-year-old champion. I don't think there's really any question about that. This horse is far and away the best 2-year-old right now, I would say. Nick's Go, I think, is much better than I gave him credit for. I know that. Now, this was a tired horse at the end of this race. You saw him on his left lead at the very end. They came together as he was drifting out a little bit. I thought him and Iz did a pretty good job, all things considered, handling this horse. I'm a little bit curious about how far ultimately he was going to want to go. He's certainly better than I thought he was. There's really no question about that in my mind. This was back-to-back solid efforts from this horse. I think there's a real scenario where going forward, he might be better at these middle distances as opposed to longer, where some of these other horses in the race, I think additional distance may be to their advantage. But Nick's Go really can't sit here and say anything else. I think this was a pretty solid effort. Also heartening, look, say what you will, and I was one of the folks saying generally the futurity, the Breeders' futurity coming out of Keeneland is not the best or the most productive. And I know I took a horse coming out of that race who ended up running dead last in standard deviation. The second and third place finishers were 1-2 in that Breeders' futurity at Keeneland. Signalman, beautiful ground-saving trip from Brian Hernandez, waited, weaved through some traffic and came through with a nice sustained late bid. You look and see the come-home times. Game Winner came home in 32-17. Signalman came home in 31-77. So this was a legitimately fine sort of final time for this horse, and especially the late finish gives off the impression that perhaps additional distance and some more seasoning will be to his advantage. I thought it was a fine effort there. When you look at the chart, though, it is pretty stark. It's pretty clear to see that not a heck of a lot of running going on from the back of the pack, but at the same time, the pace horses really were not that close when it was all said and done, with the exception of Nick's Go. You had horses like Topper T, Complexity, well-defined. They were all forwardly placed. They finished up the track. Speaking of complexity, very obvious that this distance did not work for him. I had major concerns about that going into it. Coming out of it, I have those sort of concerns. I do wonder if he's going to be best suited as a sort of sprinter when it's all said and done. Very talented horse, no denying that. Some other horses that maybe you want to keep an eye on going forward. I think Gunmetal Gray is a nice horse. I think additional distance will help him. I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't know ultimately what he'll end up being. Dueling, I think, could end up being a nice 3-year-old when it's all said and done. Mind Control, this is another instance where you probably want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he did miss that Breeders' Futurity, and this was his first race since winning the Hopeful up at Saratoga. So he'd been gone for some time. I'll be fascinated to see where they ultimately go with him, what path to try to get to the Triple Crown for him. Topper T, this is his first time going out for Bill Mott, so maybe you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And also, he had a lot of things going at him for the first time. Distance, other pace, quality, so many different pieces there. Tight 10, I maintain he's going to end up being shorter as opposed to a horse that wants to go longer. I think he's fine. I just don't think this whole thing worked out for him. And as far as well-defined is concerned, this is the first time he faced legitimate pace, finished up the track. Standard deviation, never looked like he was going to run a jump. Javier was into him with about a half mile to go, and he was just running up the track. I still hold out hope that he could be okay as a 3-year-old, but to date, he doesn't look all that good right now. As far as speed is concerned, he's going to need to get a heck of a lot faster if he's going to be considered a legitimate 3-year-old. I still maintain hope just looking at that pedigree, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, I'm sure. This was really an impressive effort from Game Winner. Again, I feel like he should be the unanimous 2-year-old champion. He is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile champion here in 2018, and he did so pretty emphatically. 93 Beyer, 112 time form U.S. rating, overcame some adversity down the lane, had a wide trip throughout, and was still much the best. Game Winner, a deserving Winter Book favorite, headed into the 2019 Kentucky Derby. But don't overlook Nick's Go. This was another good effort from him. Don't know how far he's going to want to go, but another solid effort from this horse. Ultimately, though, it's all about Game Winner.